Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources. There's a natural ebb and flow to our lives and our bodies, and the more we lean into that understanding, the better it is for our overall well-being and our productivity, which is our goal here at the Positively Living Podcast. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today we're talking about your personal productivity rhythm, what it is, why you need to know it, and how to go about doing that. Do you notice how your energy fluctuates throughout the day? Has it become a given for you to have those energy lulls and dips that you feel you have to push through? You know, those afternoon sweet treats and coffee runs aren't just about cravings. They're a response to those dips, and as much of a coffee fan as I am, I know that the need for an energy boost is something I need to pay close attention to and honor, not push through. So is this just a poor night's sleep we're dealing with, or too much work, or something else? It could be all of the above. It could certainly relate to your sleep schedule and even be a sign of burnout. But there's also a natural cycle in our bodies that causes these variations that I want to talk to you about today. And it doesn't seem like we talk about this very much, yet using this knowledge can subtly but profoundly shift not only how we work, but how well we work. The natural cycle I'm talking about is called an ultradian rhythm, and it's essentially your body's internal productivity timer. Our brains are these dynamic, ever-shifting systems that are at the root of the ultradian rhythm. Scientists are still uncovering a lot about how the ultradian rhythm works and how it interacts with our circadian rhythm, which is the sleep-wake cycle I'm sure you've heard of, and also how the ultradian rhythm impacts our mood and overall well-being. Are you ready to quickly nerd out with me about what's going on here scientifically? I'll keep it brief and simple. Here's a basic breakdown of what's happening. The players include specific brain regions and neurotransmitters. Activity levels in the prefrontal cortex, that's where focus and decision-making happen, and the reticular activating system, which regulates alertness, rise and fall through this cycle. Fun fact, the reticular activating system is also what helps us visualize, and I mention it in my vision board webinar and in the vision board podcast episode that I did, which I will mention later again. And you can find the webinar in the resources vault if you're curious about that. So fluctuations of neurotransmitters like dopamine, which is involved in motivation and reward, and norepinephrine, which is linked to alertness and focus, are also involved and directly influence how energized and mentally sharp we feel. Your ultradian rhythm is a complex intertwining and interaction between these two, your regions and brain activity and your neurochemistry, those neurotransmitters. And they create distinct peaks and valleys in energy and focus that we experience throughout the day. Now, while everyone has an ultradian rhythm, exact timing and intensity can differ slightly from person to person, as you might expect. The neurodiversity that we talk so much about now is showing us there are definitely no hard and fast rules here. But we can start with some general guidelines and then use self-awareness to customize our approach. In general, it works on a 90 to 120-minute cycle, switching between periods of high focus and alertness, when your brain is ready to tackle demanding tasks, followed by periods of low energy and a need for rest. Your brain needs a recharge. This is one of a number of reasons I recommend meetings and coaching sessions that are within or at max 90 minutes. It's long enough to cover what you need, but your brain will definitely need a break at that point. And when you push longer than that, it's the law of diminishing returns. You might keep going, but your brain isn't following. It's like when you read the same paragraph over and over again when you're tired. You're working, but you're not productive. Your ultradian rhythm dictates how you feel throughout the day in terms of focus, mood, and overall energy. Given this, you can see the potential to use it to your productive advantage by leaning into those energy spikes. During your high phase, you'll want to tackle your most important or challenging tasks, but then be ready to take your foot off the gas during the low phase. And that might be the trickiest part for most. We're so programmed to keep going, keep pushing through, and it will be a learning curve to lean into the low phase in the same way you do the high phase. Now, keep in mind, you don't always have to rest in the traditional sense, but it's wise to do something that doesn't require a lot of mental effort. Honor the energy dip in a way that works for you. And the more that you honor this natural ebb and flow, the more you'll be able to move in and out of a flow state, the most productive state there is, with ease and while avoiding burnout, which is our goal here at the Positively Living Podcast. So here's an example of what that ebb and flow might look like during your day. During your morning high phase, you want to work on a project that requires deep focus. Prep ahead for this so you have the tools you need, set a timer, and reduce distractions to help you even more with that focus, and maximize this time with work that requires you to be alert and energized. Now is not the time to be doing low-demand tasks. However, in the morning low phase, it's time to take a break, go for a walk, maybe have a snack, and let your brain relax, or maybe even do a lower demand task if it feels really easy for you. This is the perfect opportunity for you to go stare at something green and really take a break, like we talked about in episode 204 with Casey Riley about nature in design. Now, with your afternoon high phase, you'll want to maybe tackle administrative work or attend a meeting or do other types of work that still require energy and alertness, adjusting depending upon your chronotype. Now, for many, there can be an overall dip in energy in the afternoon, so you'll want to honor that. But if you have a chronotype where your energy spikes in the afternoon, this may be where during the high phase you want to do a much more demanding kind of work. However, if you do have the dip in the afternoon, if you're more of a morning person, then you'll want to keep this one focused but less complex. Then in the afternoon low phase, here's where you really ease up. Do light reading or light admin, rest if you can, and try to create a space where you're making fewer or easier decisions if you are working. So keep in mind when I say morning or afternoon phase, it's not a particular time, it's general because it needs to be a range depending upon your chronotype. In last week's episode 214 on morning routines, I debunk morning routines as an answer for everyone. Yes, they can be very valuable, but it's the routine part that makes the difference. So what you're looking for is where in your day you have the high and low phases and which high phases are the highest. Then you can plan accordingly. Before we finish up this episode, I want to mention a couple previous episodes that complement this one as well. So in addition to last week's and the one I mentioned with Casey about nature, you'll also want to check out episode 119 on how your seasonal energy impacts your productivity, episode 160 with Eric Fisher about seasonal planning for neurodiverse brains, episode 137 on creating a vision board that works, and episode 131 with Gary Ware on rest and play. You are going to love what he talks about in terms of how you can define rest and what that can look like for you. That's not at all what you think it is. There's a natural ebb and flow to our lives and our bodies, and the more we lean into that understanding, the better it is for our overall well-being and our productivity. Digital strategist Tom Gibson describes it like breathing in and out. He says we need to incorporate off time, the outward breath, the ebb, into our working patterns. Not with simple lip service like you need to sleep better, but as an integral, affirmed part of the process of working. We need to understand that on is impossible without off, and that the distance between the two needs to be made closer, like the beats of a heart or the steps of a runner. I love that, the idea that they go together like the yin and yang, that it works because they work together. So again, it's not about the push, it's not about the force, it's about the finesse. And the ultradian rhythm is another way to find that finesse. Make special note of when you're on and when you're off, and know that they both have value for you. By working with your ultradian rhythm, you can improve your focus, get more done, and avoid burnout. It's all about understanding your body's natural rhythms and working with them, not against them. So what do you think? Is this something that you're going to watch for and that you're going to try? Is this something that you've already spotted? As always, I love to hear from you. You can comment on social media, share the episode if you found value in it. I always appreciate that. And send me a message on the website through the Connect page anytime. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you again next episode. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.